Just hand over the letter, hear out his reply, and return.
He's like, don't do side quests.
Very well. Bergov is at Trotsky Castle. I think you'll find it quite an eye-opener. It's one of the finest castles in the land. It's 3 days' ride from here, so unless you hit a snag along the way, you'll be back soon enough. Any questions?
I'm getting a bit lost in the Luxembourg lineage. It all seems a bit too tangled.
The Luxembourgs have ruled the Empire and Bohemia for almost 100 years now. Emperor Charles brought this land to prominence. When he was in power, things had never been so good. Wenceslas and Sigismund are his sons, but by different mothers. Jobst and Prokop are their cousins. They were entrusted with governing Moravia. But instead, they've been in a bitter armed feud for years. And now Sigismund's fallen out with Wenceslas. Wenceslas also had another brother, the youngest, John of Görlitz, who was most probably poisoned. They seem like a hot-blooded lot. It's hard to keep up with their affairs, since they tend to change their alliances from one day to the next.
Have you finished the MSQ yet? We just had the credits roll a minute ago, and we're doing some post-credit MSQ stuff, so I think we're nearly there.
Who is he really, this Jobst?
The cousin of King Wenceslas. He's the Margrave of Moravia. I admit I don't know what to make of him myself. Until recently, he was allied with the League of Lords. For a time, he even served Rupert of the Palatinate against the king. And now suddenly, he's reversed his position. I don't know what led him to do it, and one can't help being suspicious. It's best to keep a watchful eye on him. But he really is the leader of the resistance against Sigismund these days. We'll just have to see how it all turns out.
I'm a bit concerned so many people seem to think so little of King Wenceslas. You knew him, didn't you? What's he really like?
Well, there's no straightforward answer to that question. He certainly makes a great hunting and drinking.
He's like, how do you nicely say he
But he
sucks?
can be very fiery and impetuous when things don't go how he'd like them. He never had much of a head for high office. He finds it tiresome. But once a man's grasped the scepter, it's hard to let it go again. You can't just abscond. You've seen for yourself what happens when he disappears for a few months. Better a bad but legitimate king than a bloody war over the throne.
Who is this Prokop that Jobst spoke of?
Jobst's brother, the king's cousin. He and Jobst warred over Moravian supremacy for years. Then they were allies for a while, betrayed Wenceslas and sided with Rupert of the Palatinate. But after Sigismund abducted Wenceslas, Prokop fomented a revolt against him, and Sigismund had him captured. Politics. Make of it what you will. I, for one, can't make head or tail of it most of the time.
The League of Lords and that Berghoff we're off to see. Who are they exactly?
The lords of the powerful houses. Heinrich of Rosenberg, Otto of Berghoff, Heinrich of Radetz, and others. They're unhappy with the way their influence declined after Wenceslas surrounded himself with the lesser orders of nobility. They abducted the king years ago and made him bow to their will. They got away with it that time, and now they've joined forces with Sigismund and done it again. But now it seems that Sigismund's behavior is starting to rub them up the wrong way. So they may well be thinking twice. We'll see what Berghoff has to say.
I don't know all that much about Sigismund.
He's the king's younger brother and king of Hungary in his own right. 7 years ago, he led a crusade against the Turks and was defeated at Nicopolis. Some say it was due to the recklessness of the French knights, most of whom were mercilessly slaughtered. Sigismund is ambitious and capable. He might well make a better ruler than Wenceslas, but he's arrogant, and to our misfortune, brutal. Not long ago, he himself was held captive by the Hungarian nobility. They dislike him as much as some of the Czech and German noblemen do his brother Wenceslas. Ironically, Wenceslas joined forces with Jobst to liberate him. And now this is how Sigismund repays his brother. There's no doubt about it, God does move in mysterious ways.
Rupert of the Palatinate. That's a name I hadn't heard before today.
Rupert is the Prince-Elector of the Palatinate.
What's a Prince-Elector?
The Prince-Electors are dignitaries of the Holy Roman Empire.
This is a freaking
who
maze
have
of
the
political
right to elect
switcheroos.
the
Yeah.
king of the Romans, who would then be crowned
I'm following
Holy
about
Roman
half of
Emperor
it.
by the Pope. Rupert took the title for himself with the help of 3 other prince-electors, even though Wenceslas had already been appointed. Some of the nobility in the empire recognized Rupert's claim, but when he went to Rome to be crowned emperor, it turned into a fiasco. Now he's doing his utmost to get Wenceslas to acknowledge him, but so far without success. So, now we have 2 kings of the Romans. Jobst sided with Sigismund for a while, but now he's switched allegiance. He seems to do that quite a lot.
That young man, Sir John of Liechtenstein. Why is he here?
The Liechtensteins are a powerful Austrian family, with estates in Austria and Moravia. Sir John sits on Jobst's council. Since the king's being held captive in Vienna, I suppose it makes sense to have a powerful Austrian house as allies. It could be very useful.
Okay.
That's about all.
Very well. Take the letter from Sir Hanush. And good luck, son.
Take the letter.
So what do you think of
What the-
Sir Divish?
I believe we have written it well, gentlemen.
Without a doubt. No one could deduce from this whether we are Sigismund's allies or foes.
I must travel back to Brno now, but soon I will go to Brandenburg and I will stop here on the way back. By then, Sir Capon should be back and we can discuss how to proceed.
Right. Before you leave, my lord, there is one thing that gives me no rest. Why did Sigismund come as a foe? It makes no sense.
If I may, sir, I think I can explain.
Oh, please enlighten us, young sir.
I live not far from Hungary, where Sigismund reigns. It is a savage country, and the constant war with the Turks has hardened the people. They need a monarch with an iron hand. So when Sigismund felt the wind of revolt, he reacted as he would at home. Only what works on the Hungarian nobles does not work here in Bohemia.
Bringing order is one thing, but slaughtering and pillaging with a horde of barbarians quite another. What purpose does that serve?
But Sigismund did give the Bohemian nobles a chance to take his side. It was only when they refused his ultimatum that he lost patience and took to the sword.
As for the barbarians, he could afford nothing better. The Hungarian nobility would gain nothing from joining his campaign in Bohemia. He didn't have enough coin for a regular army, and so he recruited the Cumans. What he does not pay them, they make up for in plunder.
But in the end, he didn't have enough to even satisfy the Cumans. That's why he raided Kuttenberg and Skalitz. He wanted the silver.
That makes sense.
I can't pause it.
Hungary is indeed a savage land,
My lords,
occupied
how's
by
the letter
dread
coming
creatures
along?
of green and
It's
mean.
done.
Then we can be on our way.
Now remember what we said, boy. All you have to do is deliver the letter, listen to the answer, and come back here. Don't provoke Berghoff in any way.
Provoke? Me? Never, Uncle. We'll be back in a few days.
He's like,
Farewell, your graces. Come, Henry, my men are waiting.
I wish you Godspeed.
Congratulations! You've completed the main storyline. If you like, you can still embark on side quests and activities, or just wander the world. You can end the game anytime afterwards by riding off the map with Sir Hans Capon's squad. Oh! Hold on a sec. We did it! Alright. Now, I have a save file, because, okay, I wouldn't want to, from this moment, wander around and do side quests, because a great many side quests were marked as failed when I passed a point of the main quest line because different NPCs died. If I was going to do a bunch of side quests, I would reload to before that point of no return and do them there. So, for this, I want to see riding off the map. So let's see. Sir Hans Capon squad. Where is that?
Come now, Hal. My men are mustered in the courtyard. We can get going.
Alright. Let's follow him. Also, now that I know so much more about this game, I want to rewatch the trailer for KCD2.
Are you blind, for Christ's sake? There's people walking here!
I'm having flashbacks of the chicken, chat.
So, can we set off now, Henry?
Of course. I can't wait.
So, to horse! The Lord of Burgov is bound to be waiting as eagerly.
Still nourished. Not that I really need it.
So, how is life as a high-born bastard?
I'm getting used to it.
And what about Rodzig? Has he accounted for not owning up to you the whole time?
He explained it. All will be well, I think.
Glad to hear it. It's far more acceptable for a nobleman to befriend a noble bastard than a blacksmith's son.
Mind you, don't come to blows with a blacksmith, my young lord. What do you think about Sir Jobst and his plan?
Well, I admit all the scheming has me a little lost. I thought Sigismund was the devil, Wenceslas a martyr, those on his side the heroes, and those against him the villains. I believed we'd rescue the king and all would be well again, but now it looks a lot more complicated.
Exactly. I didn't expect the noble lords to be as noble as the angels, but I hadn't expected such a sewer. They behave like children.
I can't fathom how after all this backstabbing they're somehow still on speaking terms.
I don't know either. It beggars belief.
Dog's just running under the horse and getting trampled.
Did you know that King Wenceslas is such a...
Feckless drunkard? Not really. And to be honest, I'm not sure I wanted to know. I slept better believing my fate was watched over by a wise and powerful monarch.
So did I.
What a dismal world when you can't keep trust in your own king.
On the other hand, times were better with him here than with him gone.
Isn't that the truth?
Our guards are, like, miles behind us.
What do you think of Sigismund?
If I were him, I'd have had enough of my brother even sooner.
But he's a monster. Look at what those hordes of his are getting up to here. What he did in Skalitz.
True enough. On the other hand, if Wenceslas and Prokop hadn't double-crossed him, none of this would have happened.
No one forced him to burn Skalitz.
That's a fact. But he couldn't let them shit all over him either. Not that I'm defending him.
He's a weasel.
No doubt about that.
Do you know anything about Prokop?
Ha! Sir Hanush could tell you a thing or two about him.
Why?
Last winter, a certain Sir Jan Sokol of Lamberg, a well-known knight, or robber baron to some, tried to occupy the city of Iglau, which was on the orders of none other than Prokop.
And what has that got to do with Hanush?
Well, he was there with him. Of course, that's not something to brag about in front of Jobst.
And what was it all about?
They wanted to occupy a city that was on the side of the League of Lords, but despite them being several hundred strong, they didn't take it. For one thing, they couldn't get past the Iglau women, with their pitchforks and cauldrons of hot water.
I would never have thought of Sir Hanush as such a rebel.
And have you heard anything about Rupert of the Palatinate?
A little. He can't manage even to wrest power from a king who doesn't much care for ruling and isn't fighting back. That doesn't
Where are you
seem
on the
like
map?
a man who has what it takes to
There.
rule. And that's all I need to know.
And that Berghoff we're going to see, do you know anything about him?
I haven't heard much good about him, but I have a feeling that some other nobles are quite in awe of him. And his castle is apparently quite impressive. I'll be interested to see for myself.
You've activated Berger.
And what about the League of Lords?
Wealthy, pompous. The king doesn't seem to like them much. He's chosen to let the lesser ranks of the nobility into his circle, men like your father. I admit I don't blame him one bit. But the lords weren't happy about their lost influence, so they put their foot down. If I were Wenceslas, I'd have let them hang after they abducted me the first time. But he gave them seats at the provincial council? Little wonder they're back in their old tricks.
Honestly, chat, this is kind of nice. I don't usually just move around this slow and just look at the environment. And this whole sequence kind of forces me to do so. Our guards are not even in like vision. They're so far back. Let's see where we're at. We're right there. We're almost off the map. Where I live in Georgia, this is like, not this, but like the sides of the road look like that. Just really tall trees on both sides. But when I lived in Utah, there was like no trees because it was a desert. So you could just like look straight ahead and see for miles because everything was completely flat and there was no trees. Game saved. Wait. What's going on? Talk to Capon.
Well, if it isn't the world-renowned victor of the rat-eye tourney, Henry of Skalitz.
Are you wishing you'd stayed home at Rat-Eye instead of joining in our nighttime venture?
You must be joking. I haven't had so much fun since... actually ever.
Really? Despite being wounded? Actually, you missed the best part. When I was hauling you like a sack of grain to the battlements dead to the world.
When he got shot in the butt?
That much fun if I fell asleep. But you might have handled me a bit more gently. I'm black and blue all over.
Oh, all right then. Next time I'll just leave you to Istvan's tender mercies.
Nonsense. What would you do without me? Still, thank you for hauling me out of there.
Anything for you, my lord.
Take care.
I feel like that talk wasn't supposed to happen just now.
How about it, Henry? Can we go? Are you ready for this?
Of course. At last I'll get to see more of the country and have a bit of an outing.
Quite. Let's get to it then. I finally have the feeling we're doing something worthwhile. We're helping to save the king.
Instead of saving his drunken majesty, I'd rather find that horseman who murdered my parents, get the sword back from him, and skewer him with it.
Cheer up, Henry. I have a feeling you'll get your chance one day, and it won't be long in coming.
But doesn't the guy we want to kill work for Sigismund? Imagine we strike peace with Sigismund at the beginning of the second game, and then we immediately find and kill that guy and just start the war up all over again. The end of the MSQ, chat. Dude, that was fun. That was a lot of fun. I could barely keep up with the politics at the end there, if I'm honest. Noises. Just seeing if anything else pops up after the words the end. And then it goes here. And then if I hit continue, where does it drop it? Probably right before I talk to him, if I had to guess. Yeah, it's right there at the end. If you want to see something interesting, start a new game, but in hardcore. Why? What does that do? More realistic. Let's see. You have died. What? Like many others, you were not fated to live a long life. You left this world before you were even baptized. Your mother, exhausted by childbirth, followed soon after. Your father buried you both together under a weeping willow. What? Press E to begin new life. You have died. The young miller's daughter liked to take a shortcut in winter across the frozen fish pond. But once the ice wasn't thick enough to bear her weight and you instinctively jumped in after her. You found her hand in the dark depths, but not the way back out. Only a hole in the ice marked your last step. You survived. Medieval life is full of uncertainty and woes. Spring gives way to winter, and the years have borne away your carefree youth. Neither have you escaped the blows of fate. Like every man judged by God, you too have your cross to bear. Select at least 2 negative perks that stay with you the whole game. Nightmares. Since childhood, you've been troubled by recurring nightmares in which you're being chased by a colorful jester. Although the dream is repeated night after night, it still frightens you as much as when you were little. You wake so shook, all your stats are lowered for a while after waking. Claustrophobia. When you were a child, you got your head stuck in a pail and you couldn't get it off for a whole day until your father took an axe to it. Ever since then, you've had a fear of enclosed spaces. Wearing a helmet with the visor down makes you so anxious, all attacks are weakened. Hemophilia. Like your father and his father, you are afflicted with the family curse. All it takes is a scratch and you bleed like a stuck pig. Once it starts, the bleeding is faster and harder to stop. Numbskull. Your mother dropped you on the head as a baby. Oh no, I'm a League player. She kissed it better and the bump faded, but ever since then, you're a little slow at getting the hang of things. This lowers your acquisition of experience. Consumption. You once caught a nasty chill and ended up with a persistent cough. Many thought you'd never survive, but eventually you healed. Nevertheless, since that time, you don't breathe very well and your stamina regenerates more slowly. Jesus. Shakes. When you were too little to know better, you fell into the well. It was hours. Dude, I got my head stuck in a bucket. My mom dropped me on my head and I fell in a well. God. It was hours before they heard you crying and got you out. Ever since then, you get the shakes from time to time as if you were back again in the dark, chilly well. Obviously, that's not good for archery, pickpocketing, or lockpicking. You're like trying to pick a lock. You're like, ah, the well. I'm back in the well. Tapeworm. Jesus. Once you've got an appetite, you'll eat anything you can get your hands on. Folks say you'll eat enough for 2. It's like you have a visitor in your guts who's eating you out of house and home. You get hungry faster and you have to eat more often. Somnambulant. I don't know what that is. You've always been a restless sleeper, sometimes so much that you get up from bed and go walking. It's not unusual for you to wake up somewhere else than where you went to bed. Oh, I've heard about this. Okay, so this is problematic for 2 reasons. Like, one, in this difficulty, your location is not shown on the map. Okay? You don't have a little marker where you are on the map. So imagine you have this trait. You sleep and wake up in the woods. You have no effing clue where you are on the world map. You're just in an area with a tree. That's all you know. I would never pick this. Brittle bones. Ever since you were little, stairs and ladders have been your worst enemies. All it takes is a little fall and your bones break. Awful crap. Why is that so funny? You suffer much worse injuries than others when you fall. Oh my god. All right. What if I were to actually do this? Hold on a sec. I would do this, and then I would just not take a helm with a closed-in thing. And then I would do this, and I would be really careful about falling. But yeah, you can take all of them. Jesus. Friendly reminder, you want to check Age of Darkness? Okay, yeah, hang on. So is there anything more past this point that's new? Alright, this is all the stuff we've seen. Okay.
Fine state you're in this.
So in addition to those negative effects, are like the enemies tougher, I would assume, on this difficulty? Or is it... I should wait for a yes or no before I ask more. Let me see. Kingdom Come Deliverance hardcore changes. Hardcore effects. Combat is much deadlier for both you and enemies. Health potions take much more time to take effect. Items purchased from traders are much more expensive. Repair kits and repairing at vendors cost significantly more. The chests of the non-DLC treasure maps will be missing the high-end gear, like St. George's Sword or Augsburg Plate Chausses. You'll have, still have access to remaining contents of the chest through St. George's Sword. I never did a treasure map. Auto saves from quests are disabled. Saving only occurs if you drink savior schnapps, sleep, go to a bathhouse to heal, or save and quit. Dude, imagine, like, dying and losing, like, hours of progress. Combat is much deadlier. Health potions take more time to take effect. Items are more expensive. Repair kits are more expensive. Eating from communal pots of food only gives 5 nourishment, down from 25. You cannot fast travel. You cannot see where you are on the world map. The top bar loses the compass. Though the background texture is unique to each cardinal direction, which allows for some navigation with practice. Points of interest such as vendors or quest markers only appear when you get close enough. Some perks now have different functionality. Thick-blooded now reduces the chance of bleeding from a foe's strike as opposed to reducing bleeding rate. Revenant no longer regenerates health, but only speeds up health gained when sleeping. That is so much more useless. Contemplative perk is not available. The bar at the bottom of the screen is removed. As such, you can never tell how high or low your hit points, stamina, enemy's health, or horse stamina is. You can't see your health? When engaging in combat, the combat star that displays where your attacks are directed will never be visible. Therefore, you must be able to tell according to visual cues of your arms when holding weapons. Additionally, the green shield for perfect blocks are no longer shown during combat. Oh god, I don't know if I could play without that little marker. Runt, that was the first major boss of the game, is equipped with an Italian bassinet, mail coif, padded coif, and short noble hauberk on top of his normal armor. Dude, hang on a second.
I was sweating.
Well, I've got it.